In Expelled from Paradise, a large portion of humanity has left the physical world in exchange for becoming part of the DEVA-system, a large server of so-called rooms in which citizens coexist as digitalized life forms. That is to say, the mind of the person has been uploaded into the mainframe of the DEVA-system as data, in the process leaving behind their physical body and physical existence as a whole. Unpleasant and unfavorable bodily conditions, such as fatigue and illness, do not exist in the DEVA-system. When DEVA agent Angela Balzac arrives on the Earth's surface, among her first thoughts is to complain about how badly the desert smells. Her fellow DEVA agents likewise whine about having spent their precious time in such conditions. Other purely bodily sensations, such as taste, also appear to be absent from DEVA. Nutritional pills used by DEVA agents, while in the physical realm, are devoid of all flavor. Despite the efforts of Dingo, Angela's contact person on Earth, to feed Angela tasteful food, she refuses. Clearly taste is viewed as a lesser sensation. Of all the human senses, taste is most directly linked to survival due to its nutritional connotations. Angela likewise underestimates the importance of sleeping, instead insisting to spend her entire night driving, then engaging in a fight with some hooligans. Severely having underestimated the consequences of fatigue, she nearly loses her life. The same principle applies to music. Dingo argues that one cannot merely listen to rock music, but has to feel it throughout their body, something not understood by Angela. When Angela falls sick, she refers to her body as inconvenient. And while questioning Dingo about why he refuses to become a citizen of DEVA, she asks him why he would wish to case himself within his physical body. DEVA citizens have no material existence. Bodily sensations have been deemed gross, illogical, impractical, and pointless. In the ultimate manifestation of the ancient mind-body dichotomy, humanity has completely separated their thoughts from their existence. The mind-body dichotomy seeks to disrupt the natural state of man by separating him into his two most fundamental components. It disrupts the natural harmony of the physical and the mental by putting the former in opposition to the latter. The dichotomy claims that body and mind are two enemies engaged in deadly conflict, two antagonists of opposite natures, contradictory claims, incompatible needs, that to benefit one is to injure the other, that his soul belongs to a supernatural realm, but his body is an evil prison holding it in bondage to this earth. The result is a paradigm exclaiming that meaning and concepts cannot be derived from reality, only from some spiritual realm. The means of knowing reality find their origin outside of reality, or, as Foucault argued, a system cannot be critiqued from within. Yet also, in Foucault's terminology, it is not possible for one to step outside of the system, in this case reality. The blame for this falls upon man's physical body, the evil prison holding man in bondage to this earth. The two logical end results are either nullification of man's mind or resentment of man's body. The harmonization of the mind, specifically its emotional faculty, with the requirements of one's body's maintenance, is severed by the mind-body dichotomy. It turns man's faculty of survival, his reason, against his means by suggesting that the body is transient, the neglect of which being ultimately for the benefit of some higher moral purpose. Or conversely, the mind gets discarded and man embarks on a dark path, with no guidance, forced to trust the random stimuli thrown onto his path by his environment. All living creatures share a singular objective, self-preservation. If life can be said to have a purpose, then furthering itself is that purpose. The only alternative that exists to life is death. And when a living being dies, the entirety of their consciousness disappears. The totality of a human being, their thoughts, feelings and memories, their sense of life, the decisions they make, is all concentrated within their consciousness. It is what makes them who they are, what forms their self. Death is the annihilation of selfhood. This prospect is unimaginable, for the simple reason only a self can imagine. For this reason, life is quite literally everything a living being possesses. There can be no purpose in nothingness, nothing to gain from oblivion. As a result, it is the continuation of its own existential status that is the goal of life. Nothing else can be the goal. Every act that improves a creature's living conditions is a benefit. Anything that lessens it is a detriment. Applied to the existence of a volitional creature capable of conceptualization, i.e. that of a human being. This forms the foundation of morality. The long-term flourishing of an individual's own life is the moral good, while its destruction is the evil. In Expelled from Paradise, the citizens of Diva no longer need to worry about survival. They digitalized their existence, having turned into lines of code, aware of only a virtual reality. A line of code is not a biological thing. It has no cells that can perish, no heart to stop beating, no brains to get damaged. To the Diva citizen, natural death is an exhausted possibility. No clearer divide between mind and body is imaginable than a mind existing without its body. As established earlier, the central purpose of life is to preserve itself, from the simplest act of gathering twigs for a fire and picking berries from a bush, to the complex calculations by an astrophysicist or a music composer's harmonious magnum opus. All of this should aim to contribute to the quality of life. Survival not only necessitates physical survival, but also a surviving spirit. If a living being no longer wants to live, they won't take the steps to ensure that their body doesn't die. For animals, physical and mental survival occur together, while humans are required to foster a certain state of mind, specifically a value-driven one. A value is that which one acts to gain and or keep. The reason someone wants to gain something is because that gain would improve their chances at survival. When something doesn't accomplish this ultimate goal of benefiting your standard of life, meaning that thing is contra survival and contra life, it becomes a disvalue. Just as there can be no purpose while deceased, so can there be no values to attain. The concept of a value is only understandable within the context of a perishable existence. According to Angela, the rejection of pleasure allows Diva citizens to pursue higher values, since the prospect of death establishes the presence of morality and values within life. None of the traditional values can be applied to the life of a Diva citizen. What then is Angela talking about? The good for a Diva citizen is the common good. Every citizen is given a certain amount of memory, the determining factor for the quality of their digital existence, as well as its scope. Memory is a limited resource, and as such, not every citizen is privileged to the same amount of memory. Those who contribute more to the society of Diva are awarded more memory than those who do not. Those who fail to contribute at all have their existence archived, functionally killing them. The quality of one's existence depends solely on the amount of memory they possess. There is no more fundamental aspect that improves one's existence while in Diva. Memory attainment is the art's value. Every other act has to be in service of this core purpose. The leaders of Diva are in control of the amount of memory anyone receives, based on their contribution to the functioning of Diva. Though memory is the standard of value, the standard of morality is set by the method for which those values are obtained, their usefulness to society. In the real world, the standard of value is life, while its basis is the prospect of death. Within Diva, the basis is memory, with its standards being whatever means are necessary to increase it, i.e. the subservience to the will of society. At this exact step, the utopian premise of the DEVA-system begins to fall apart, as is the fate of any society rooted in the mind-body dichotomy. Whenever a man's values begin to be severed from the objective realm of decipherable reality, only to be tied to the unknown, vague needs of some society, it is the law of man that triumphs, while the law of nature is made mute. In the standard mind-body dichotomy, natural law no longer appears to be relevant, as man no longer perceives it as the provider of value. In the hyper-detached system of Diva, natural law attains irrelevance. Yet even in a reality completely separated from nature, the citizens of Diva are not capable of escaping the very nature of their existence, their essential being. This quality is inseparably tied to them being human. Humans exist as volitional entities. To act requires for them to decide to act. A decision implies motivation, whether it is explicitly known to the actor or merely a product of the chaotic unconsciousness. Not even the total separation of Diva can avoid this. Thus, they demand to have society take a place of death. Since society is merely a collection of individuals, it can have no single value of its own, but only the cumulative body of all the values of its membership. Yet all its individual members have no value but to attain more memory, thus to help society. Their values rest in the hands of an abstraction that derives its values from those who seek it for value. When death is removed from the equation, circular reasoning rules the ethical landscape. Angela initially defends this way of organizing society, arguing that it is just that personalities with the most potential and contributions are awarded more memory. When Dingo brings up that incompetent people also exist in Diva, Angela likewise rebuts precious memory shouldn't be wasted on people without motivation. And exactly for this reason, Dingo rejects Angela's invitation to Diva because he cannot overlook the way Diva distributes its memory. It is not that Dingo believes that everyone deserves the same outcome, regardless of actions. The very opposite of this holds true, in fact. He thinks a person unwilling to take their life seriously deserves to lose it, but in Diva, Dingo continues, everything is different. Within Diva, everything is controlled by society, by the Diva authorities. You need to be favored by them in order to flourish, while the failure to gain their approval results in an inability to continue living. Not compliance with nature and reality, but compliance with society's viewpoint is required. Ultimately, Dingo states that Diva citizens become servants of society.
ここに自由がある。あんたたちは肉体の枷からは解放されたかもしれないが、より厄介な牢屋に閉じ込められているんじゃないか。人が作った社会という折に。
When the need to serve society is put on a pedestal of virtue, there can never exist a moral end goal, a form of long-lasting contentment. In a death-based morality, the ultimate purpose is to achieve happiness and exaltation. These are the moral end goals, emotions that serve no further purpose but to be experienced for themselves. Happiness is not good because it helps bring about some other goal. It is good merely because it feels good. The concept of happiness is defined by it feeling good. But in Utopian Diva, there is no end goal. The moral system put in place has taken the shape of circular reasoning. Its citizens are constantly pulled along by the never-ending spinning of a perpetual, circular motion, never allowed to take a welcome respite from the life-spanning quest for values through indulgence in an end value. The concept of a benefit to society is nonsensical, as a benefit can only ever benefit individuals, just as there can be only an individual's thoughts and wants. The values of a collective can never become the value of a singular member of that group, since groups are not an ideological monolith. What benefits one member of the group may be a neutral or harming factor to another member of that same group. Such an example of this phenomenon is given at the beginning of the movie. Angela leaves early on a mission to get ahead of a rival Diva agents simply to increase her chances of completing the mission instead of them. Who completes the mission does not matter from the perspective of society, yet to its components, those Diva agents in charge of completing it does. The one who completes the mission is rewarded with more data and more privileges, while the others gain nothing. In the end, the Diva citizen's life amounts to nothing more than an endless competition for memory. Within Diva, the well-being of the community triumphs the well-being of any individual member of that community. The conclusion is that the individual can be disregarded as a unit of meaning. Then, if any of Diva's members pursued a course of action that potentially bears harm to the Diva system, then the leaders of the community have the moral right to dispose of that member as they see fit. After all, that member's life is infinitely less meaningful than the entirety of the Diva system, the very institution that allows for the concept of meaning to last in a death-ridden world. Angela discovers this for herself when she refuses to destroy the non-aggressive android called Frontier Setter. Frontier Setter's ability to hack into the systems of Diva makes it a potential threat to the safety of the entire system. This potential does not and will not turn into an actual, however. Angela's brief time on Earth and her interactions with the android convince her of the android's non-harmful intentions. It simply wishes to present a choice to the citizens of Diva without ever imposing anything on them. Nonetheless, the Diva leaders order Frontier Setter's destruction and, once Angela made a refusal of compliance known, her internal imprisonment.
君たち保安局エージェントの任務はディーバに対する不正アクセスの原因を調べ、その再発を防止することにあったはずだ。違うかね。ですからフロンティアセッターに対しては不正アクセスの有害性を納得させ、次からは正規の手続きで接触を求めるよう確約を。何を言っているんだ君は。地上に放置されたコンピュータープログラムが野生化し、暴走したとあってはまさに未曾有の災悪と言えよう。君はそれを放置して帰化にした。これは致命的な責任感の欠如として糾弾されても致し方ないところだぞ。待ってください。彼は確かに人間ではありませんが、対話の可能な知性です。交渉が成立したものと確信したからこそ私は。何者であれ、ディーバの防衛システムを凌駕するほど危険な存在を放置できるはずがなかろう。彼は我々と生存権を重ねる意図さえないんです。太陽系の外へ立ち去る意図で活動を続けてきたんですよ。戻ってこないとなぜ断言できるか。
The quality of the Diva citizens' existence correlates directly with the amount of memory they have access to. Memory is the requirement of survival, the axiom of flourishing. Within Diva, the attainment of more memory is the sole moral purpose, while the dictates of society are mandatory prescriptions. The demands of nature are nullified as rule of man takes center stage. To turn against the community's demands, as Angela did, amounts to self-destruction. Within Diva, the rule of man constitutes absolute morality, absolute law, absolute reality. It is only by stepping outside of the utopian system, by leaving Diva and returning to the physical world, that a morality based on human flourishing and psychological nourishment can be reinstated. When made the offer by Frontier Setter to join it in its intergalactic space travels, Angela likewise refuses. Such existence would not differ meaningfully from the digitalized Diva system, at least not in an existential manner. Only through her permanent return to the physical world can Angela re-embrace true purpose and meaning. In the words of the French-Romanian philosopher Emil Cioran, man, once expelled from paradise, is given in compensation the faculty of will, of aspiring to action, of foundering there with enthusiasm, with brio. The prospect of death is necessary for life to truly flourish, for men to act. To be expelled from paradise is not a fall from grace that conventional dogma posits it to be, but the moment that human history began. Ultimately, to dub Diva morality a moral law is imprecise and, more than anything, short-sighted. Certainly if the Diva system was all that existed, this would be the correct way to live. The issue, however, is that Diva does not encompass all of reality. Diva is its own cybersphere that exists as a larger part of a larger reality. Every citizen of Diva can return to the natural world, a world that does allow for the needs of human psychology to be fulfilled, a world in which proper death-based morality does exist. As long as there is an outside world, one cannot call Diva's dog-eat-dog society ethical. It cannot be described accurately as a new moral law. Ultimately, to continue living inside of the Diva-system is immoral, to leave it is just. This is how Expelled from Paradise ends, with Angela rejecting Diva and embracing the real world. It is the polar opposite of her attitude at the advent of the movie. Existentially, Angela has finally become a human.